Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Jonna. I am the owner of Blue Coach Travel, and I have a little visitor today, big visitor. You can see part of her nose here. My German Shepherd, she's wanting to get some attention right now. So anyway, today we are going to talk about how to speak Disney or some Disney terms and terminology um, that you hear and maybe think, what the heck does that mean? So, first thing we're going to talk about is when you're first booking that Disney vacation, you're staying at a resort on property. That's one of the first terminologies would be on property, off property. Obviously, that's a pretty easy one. On property, you're staying at a Disney World resort. Off property, you're not staying at a Disney World resort. So that's a pretty easy one. But basically, Disney does breaks their resorts into categories. The first is the value category. Then they have a moderate, and then they have a deluxe. And those are basically just different types of resorts. All of them are on Disney properties, so they're all great options. It's just basically based on price. Obviously, the value resort will be the most economical, and the most expensive will be the value resort, or the deluxe resorts. But even within those categories, prices can range a little bit based on the resort. And then there's actually a fourth category that is called the villas, and those can be a studio size, um, and they could be a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. But what they are is they are another terminology which is called DVC. They are part of the Disney Vacation Club, and the good thing about that is you do not have to be a Disney Vacation Club member to stay in those rooms. So, one of the biggest perks of staying at Disney is another terminology, which is called early entry. So, when you stay on Disney property, you get the opportunity to enter the parks 30 minutes before any other guest is allowed into the park. And why is that such a perk? Well, that gets you to those really sought after attractions before anybody else. So you might be able to get those big deal rides done before the park ever even opens, and hopefully multiple ones of those. Extra magic hours is for those guests that are staying in a deluxe resort. They get to stay after the park has closed. It's a good time to ride those big deal rides, or to just get some, rides in that you weren't able to get in during the day. Now that you've made the resort selection, there's some more Disney terms that you're going to run into. The first is MDE, and what is that? My Disney experience. Probably very, very important, because this is where you're going to link all of your resort reservations, your tickets. You're going to put your party in there, so that you can use something that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Now, there's two different ways you can access that. Obviously, with a laptop or desktop, which is a really good option as far as when you want to link those or create your party. And what's kind of fun is each member of your party can have their own character that represents them, so it's pretty fun to do that. But then also, you're going to want to download the My Disney Experience app, because you're going to use that very heavily once you're in the parks. Some more terminology: magic bands. So this is something I kind of have a funny story that goes along with that. But we'll talk about what a magic band is first. So it basically it's a watch. It looks like a watch or a bracelet type thing that you wear around your wrist that gets you access into your room. It can get you access into into the parks. It can also be a way where you can, if you have a credit card behind it, you can make purchases with it for food or for merchandise. And it's also a way to help you get on some rides, which again, we'll talk about in a little bit. Now, that story around the magic bands. So a few years ago, my husband and I were going to Disney with my son and his family. And we, at the time, lived in two different states. And we got the magic bands in the mail, was sent to us, and I was needing to mail them um, to my son and his family. So when I was at the post office, they often ask you, what's what's in the package. They'll ask if there's anything basically that's flammable. Um, and I said, nope, they're just magic bands. And the post office worker thought that I said magic beans. So he thought I was shipping magic beans to my son. So, but no, they were just magic bands. So it makes me giggle every time I think of that story. Some other things you might see and you might kind of wonder what they are. Memory maker. That is something that some people see and be like, well, what is that? And basically that is photos. So again, with your magic band, you can use this. And Disney has photographers all around the parks. And when you have the memory maker, you can get your picture taken by these photographers. And it's basically, you download it. You'll be able to see it in the My Disney Experience app as you go. But you'll be able to download those when you get home and have them as your mementos of the vacation. And they have fun things like magic shots where they'll put different graphics in the photo with you. Like the Disney photographer will tell you to go like this, and when you see your photo when you get home, Tinkerbell will be in your palm. Just cute things like that. That's one of the examples of some of the pictures that we've had with the memory maker. And also you get those ride photos too. So you can get that picture of you screaming going through the different attractions there might be. Or I have one where I'm very intently have my hands on my controller at Buzz Lightyear trying to beat my husband's score, which I did not. So anyway, and one thing I forgot to mention, another terminology that goes along with kind of those resort stays is called a split stay. So what that means is basically having reservations at more than one resort for your stay. So we've done that before. A few years ago, we did a split stay. We stayed at the Grand Floridian, and we actually had two different room categories there. So we kind of got to see the two different room categories. We had a standard view room, and that was pretty cool because we got to see what our view was. We were on the 5th floor, and we got to see a view of basically the pool area. But what was really cool was the monorail went by. So I loved sitting out there and just watching the monorail go by. It was pretty magical. And then we had a lake view, which was really, really pretty, because not only did we see, this pretty lake that was out in front of our room, but also across the lake, we got to see the Polynesian, and it was just so pretty at night, all lit up. It was just a really, really pretty view. And so the next resort that we stayed at during that trip was the Polynesian, which that was really cool too, because there's a walkway that goes between the Grand Floridian and the Polynesian. So we just walked our bags over, which Disney will transfer your luggage when you do a split stay like that. You don't have to do anything with it. You take it to Bell Services at the resort you're currently staying at. Tell them you're moving to whatever resort you're moving to, and it will be delivered to Bell Services there. But it was such a short walk. We just decided to go ahead and walk our luggage over. It was a short stay. We were only with carry-ons only, so it wasn't, and it was just the two of us. So it wasn't a big, it wasn't a big deal to just walk it over ourselves. But that was, really cool to be able to experience not only the two different room types within the Grand Floridian, but also experience the Polynesian as well. So it was just really fun to experience those different resorts in one stay. But it is called a split stay. And so just one of those terminologies that you might hear out there that you might not know what it means. And as we were talking about the My Disney Experience app, one thing that you might see on there is park reservations. So starting in January this year, most date-based tickets don't require park reservations anymore. But this was something that happened after the 2020 closures, basically to be able to, kind of monitor the amount of people that are in the parks each day. Not only purchasing a ticket was required, but also making a reservation in that park. For the most part, like I said, that is not the case anymore for any ticket-based, any date-based tickets. But some tickets do still require those park reservations. Recently in February, we went and we brought my youngest daughter and her husband. Her husband is in the Navy, so he was able to get military tickets, and they did need to make those park pass reservations for those types of tickets. So that's just one of those other terminologies that's out there still being used, and it's on the My Disney Experience app. So sometimes you look at that and go, is that something I need or not? So next, when you're going to the parks, there's some more terminology that's out there. And first is, basically how you wait in line. So the most standard way would be the standby line. And then there is a quicker option, which is called a lightning lane. If you've been to Disney before in the past, it used to be called Fast Pass. Now it is called the lightning lane. So for most attractions, not all, but most attractions, when you go up to the attraction, you'll see one line that will say lightning lane and one line that will say standby. So anybody can go into those standby lines, but to do the lightning lane, there are some rules around that we'll talk about here. And that does lead into Genie. So there are two different Genie services. There's the free version, which is just Genie. It's on the My Disney Experience app. And it basically is a way for you to kind of, Genie will help you plan out your day, which attractions you want to go to, that type of thing. And that's the free service. And then there's what's called Genie Plus. And Genie Plus is how you get those lightning lanes. So Genie Plus there is a charge, and the charge is different per day, per park. But it is a way that you can make reservations for those lightning lanes. And that's where the lightning lanes are basically just faster lanes. You will sometimes have to wait in those lines, but they are significantly lower than the standby lines. And there's another option for lightning lanes, in which is called the individual lightning lane. So outside of Genie Plus, you don't have to purchase it to get these individual lightning lanes, but basically they're kind of the big deal rides in each park. And there is one, and in Magic Kingdom case, two rides or attractions that you can purchase those individual lightning lanes. The prices, again, do vary per day and per attraction, but it is a way to skip that line and not have to wait in those long standby lines. Now, there are 2 attractions currently within Disney World that have what's called a virtual queue. So that is different than anything that we've talked about before. And these are the newest rides. In Magic Kingdom, it's Tron, and in Epcot, it's Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, there's only 2 ways that you can ride those rides. You can join the virtual queue, or you can purchase an individual lightning lane. And the virtual queue is basically you can join it twice per day, at 7 a.m. and again at 1 p.m. At 7 a.m. you can be outside of the park. Obviously, they're not open yet. And at 1 o'clock you have to be inside the park to be able to join the virtual queue. Now, this whole Genie Plus, Lightning Lane, virtual queue, all of that is a much bigger discussion than just describing the terminology. So look for a video later when I'll go into a little bit more detail on how those Genie Plus and Lightning Lanes and virtual queues and all of that, and how it actually works. And the last terminology for basically the rides or attractions is called rider swap. Now, this is a way that you can, if you have little ones and they're not old enough to ride on some rides or attractions, how the parents can still ride. So what you do basically is either you wait, you're going into the standby line, or you're going into the lightning lane if you've purchased that Genie Plus and made that lightning lane reservation. So the first part of the party is going to go first. And I'm going to use, and then basically you're going to swap. And I'll use an example, a real life example that we use this back in that trip that I was talking about with my son and his family. So we had my husband and I, my son, his wife, and their 4 children. Now, the 2 youngest ones were not old enough to go on at the ride that we were riding was called Rise of the Resistance. It's at Hollywood Studios. But we did have, at the time, it was a virtual queue. They don't have virtual queues anymore. But the concept is still the same. So we had gotten up, we'd done the virtual queue, we got a return time, and but we couldn't all ride it together because of the 2 youngest ones. So we went to a cast member, and there will always be a cast member at the entrance of the attraction, and we let them know that we had 2 riders that wouldn't be riding, so one person would sit out with them, and we would do rider swap. So what we did was the biggest group went. My daughter-in-law stayed out with the 2 youngest children. The rest of us went in and rode the attraction. And when it was my daughter-in-law's time to go, she didn't have to go by herself. They do let one person ride again. So if you're in a big group like that, so my granddaughter got to ride it again, which she was thrilled. She's a big Star Wars fan, so she was thrilled to be able to ride it twice. So it's a really great option to be able to ride an attraction if you have little ones who, are not old enough to go on. And that way you don't have to wait, or you don't have to lose out on a lightning lane reservation or a virtual queue that you all made. So next, we're going to talk about some of that terminology around dining and around shopping. So first of all, the biggest thing, there is different terminology for the types of restaurants that are at Disney. There is basically 2 types. There's quick service, which is what you think about when you're going to an amusement park. It's things like burgers and fries and chicken fingers. Now, Disney does have much more elevated options as well. But basically, it's that quick, grab and go, or not really grab and go, that quick type of meal. And then there is table service, and that is just like it sounds. You're going to sit down at a table, you'll have a server that will take care of you. So those are the different types of terminologies as far as the types of restaurants there are. Um, there's another terminology that's called mobile order. So basically, and that's something that's fairly new. And basically, that gives you the option to order before you're at the restaurant. So you don't have to stand in line, wait to go to a cashier and place that order. You are going to use your My Disney Experience app, place your order, and then when you get to the restaurant, you hit I'm here. Disney's or the restaurant starts preparing your order for you. You get a notification when it's ready, telling you where to go to pick it up. It's a pretty cool option. And they have something kind of similar for shopping too, which is mobile checkout. So basically, you can scan as you go, and you check out again in the My Disney Experience app. So, a couple of different terminologies, but to make life a little easier and faster when you're wanting to get that bite to eat or that cool souvenir. So today we talked about some of the terminology and basically, how to talk Disney. I'm sure that there is more that I have forgotten. So anything I forgot, please leave in the comments below. What are some of the Disney terminologies that I missed today? At Blue Coach Travel, we would love to help you book your next Disney vacation. Down in the description box below is a link to schedule a complimentary consultation. Please take a minute, fill out that link, and we hope to talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.